All right, here we go. Welcome back. This is the Baseball Show. Hope you've enjoyed everything we put out to this point. We're going to keep hammering you all off-season leading up into your draft with hot stove activity, free agent signings, trades, sleepers, busts, breakouts, prospects. You name it, we're giving it to you. I'm Andy Singleton. That's Ralph Lifshitz. Let's just dive right into it. This is something I love to talk about, and that's minor league prospects. This is something Ralph actually does professionally in that somebody pays him to write about this. So hopefully we're giving you knowledge that you can rely on and find beneficial and useful to your fantasy teams. We're going to talk about Lewis Brinson, Cody Bellinger, and it had to be a Red Sox, Andrew Benintendi. So let's just jump right into things with Lewis Brinson. Lewis Brinson, center fielder, now with Milwaukee, was traded from Texas to Milwaukee. This guy has jumped up numerous prospect lists into the top 10, unilaterally consensus top 10 overall prospect. Some have him as high as number 1. Some have him, as low as 10, but he's somewhere in there. As I mentioned, I'm going to name drop as much as I can on this show. So another friend, Rich Wilson of Prospect 361, this is his guy. This is Rich's guy. And if you believe in anything that Rich says, and he has a long proven track record, then that should speak volumes for the type of player Lewis Brinson can be. So, Ralph, are you in the majority that feels Brinson is, in fact, that highly regarded as a prospect and should be?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the big thing with Brinson, he's somebody that offers redraft value this year, which is not something that all these prospects that are going to be in the top 25 are necessarily going to offer. But he's a guy that, maybe you're not going to draft him because he's probably not going to make the team out of camp. But this is somebody around Super 2 time that we're definitely going to be paying attention to. And the reason is he's another guy with, a huge power speed profile. He struggled a little bit at Round Rock last year. I was not a huge Brinson fan, though I was a fan of him. Any of these guys, it's, an athlete, I believe he, had a wrist or a hand injury early on in 2016 that sapped some of his power. That started to come back at Colorado Springs, which is where the Brewers minor league AAA affiliate is. It's one of the better hitting environments in the minor leagues, but the guy destroyed it when he got there. He was hitting 500 for the first month or so in Colorado Springs. He's somebody that brings a significant power speed profile. Baseball America just did their Brewers Top 10, and this was a guy that, had a 60 grade hit tool, 60 grade power, 60 grade speed. That is sexy from a fantasy baseball perspective. He is definitely with my top 10, and I would do anything I can to own him. Though if I did own him with the sort of value he has right now, especially as we get into prospect season and these top 100 lists are coming out, I would explore trading him before the season because you may be able to get a bounty for him.
You know what? Absolutely. And that's exactly my feeling. And the reason I say that is because he's a lifetime 272 batter from rookie through AA ball. And then, remarkably, he's batted 395 in AAA. So small sample, it's only 31 games. So you see the good and the bad there. It actually kind of makes no sense that he's batting nearly 400 in AAA and yet only 272 in every other level of the minors. The power, the speed is certainly there, but is he a 40-40 guy? No. Is he a 30-30 guy? That'd be exceptional for him. So we're somewhere below that. But the way he's being touted, the way his name is rising and elevating in all these prospect lists, you would think he's like the next coming of Chris Bryant or something, who was a can't miss prospect. To me, that's just not who Lewis Brinson is. He's certainly going to be a great player. He's a plus defender. His defense will keep him on the field. If Keon Broxton does wind up being Milwaukee's center fielder, Brinson is the type of athlete that will push Broxton out of center over to one of the corner spots because that's how good Brinson is on defense. So he's going to play. And as Ralph said, it could be this year. My whole thinking, though, is he's not going to max out on what his, Baseball America grades are. What his projections are, he's going to fall short of that. And that leaves you in a tough place. Do I want a really good outfielder, or do I want to get more than what he's worth? And if you want to get more than what he's worth in a dynasty league, now is the time to start considering trading him before he gets called up. And, if he does live up to all that hype and expectation, you still probably got something good for him. So it'll be a wash. You just won't have him on your team. But if he falls flat on his face or doesn't live up to that, then you probably got more than you should have. So that's my take with Brinson. Would you add anything to that, counter anything with that, or were you thinking the same thing I'm saying with that?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And it's funny, in dynasty leagues, I've noticed that the best time to trade a prospect is when they have all this hyperbole heading into the season, because you can, especially if you have a decent team and you have an opportunity to compete in your league, these are the kind of pieces that you can move off and get excellent value. For example, I have one league where I traded Lucas Giolito going into last season when he had a ton of hype for Matt Carpenter. I ended up competing. I finished second in that league. I ended up flipping a couple of pieces in the offseason. I think it was Adam Conley and somebody else. And I got back Giolito and a hitter, an MLB hitter. It's off the top of my head right now. Right. But I think that's a good example, though, is you can buy when these guys' value is low and you can sell when their value is high. And that's how you max out opportunity. That's the best reason to know prospects in the dynasty league. It's not to necessarily build from that, because I think that's a bad strategy, but it's to be able to identify when you have an opportunity to sell high and buy low on a player.
And adding to that a little bit, there are can't miss prospects. And sure, depending on where they are or what their name value is, you might not want to move those guys, and you might want to hold them to build around them, because chances of you getting them back are slim to none. Then there's other guys that are, you can feel pretty good about them being a can't miss, but their names haven't really gotten to that level yet. So you can move them now and probably get them back. And the next guy we're talking about just happens to be one of those guys. Speaking of Cody Bellinger, the Dodgers, first baseman / outfielder, more of a first baseman. He's not really a household name yet. He's starting to become one. If you ask me, between Bellinger and Brinson, I would put my money on Bellinger 3 times over as being the surefire can't miss guy. But this guy, barring any major injuries or trades or anything crazy happening, probably won't sniff the majors at all this season, and will bide his time in AAA. And 2018 is his year. When Adrian Gonzalez's contract expires, he'll come up. Like I said, barring anything unforeseen injury-wise or trade-wise or anything like that, if the Dodgers, the current roster is there the whole season, he's not coming up. But this is a future, 15-year first baseman, 30 homer, 100 RBI guy, 280, 290 average. Maybe I'm being a little lofty, but I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. And you could probably trade Brinson and get a Cody Bellinger plus right now. So talk to me a little bit more about Bellinger. By the way, as a 20-year-old in AA, he jacked 23 homers and hit 263. That was young for the level, and 23 homers at any age is putting on a show, let alone 20 years old in AA when you're 3-4 years below the grade. So what's your take with Bellinger?
Yeah, and I think your expectations are lofty, just like a swing. And if you guys haven't seen it, you need to check out a swing. I not only write about prospects over on Razzball, I also have a podcast with my cohort, my co-prospector, Michael Halpern of ImaginaryBrickWall.com. It's my little plug for my boy out there. But we were having a little bit of debate a couple episodes ago, because we do different systems. We were going through the Dodger system, and we were talking about Bellinger. And I'm one of the high guys on Bellinger. I love him. I think he's a top 20 prospect. He was in my top 30 or so midseason last season. He had a great 2015. He hit 27 homers at high A. It is the Cal League, which is very hitter slanted. So there was a lot of, sort of sideways looks, and some folks were very skeptical of what Bellinger had done. He then started out the season rough, didn't hit out the gate, in AA in 2016 in AA Tulsa. Then second half just took off, ended up hitting 23 homers in AA, went up for a 3-game little moonlighting at AAA Oklahoma City, and he hit 3 homers in 3 games. This guy has a lofty swing. He hits the ball in the air. He hits the ball hard. And the thing that I love about him the most is I think he compares. I don't think he's going to be Paul Goldschmidt, but he's very athletic like Paul Goldschmidt. And what I mean by that is this guy could actually be up in 2017. And I actually do think you will see him sometime in the second half for the Dodgers because he can play all three outfield positions. He can play center field, and he has logged time in center field in the minors. He's a great athlete. His father, obviously, Clay Bellinger of utility fielder fame with the Yankees. So he's got those bloodlines. He grew up around clubhouses. He grew up in the major leagues. He sort of has that behind him. In addition to the great athleticism, power stroke, all that stuff. He's got a great organization behind him, and the Dodgers do an excellent job in terms of player development. And I think he's a ready-made replacement for Agon in 2018 or 2019, whenever that happens. But I do think he ends up coming up and platooning a little bit in that outfield because he's such a great athlete. In addition to the power, he's also going to give you some speed as well. He can steal bases. He's not going to steal 20 bases, anything like that. But you could be looking, 8 to 10, somewhere in that range, which from your first baseman, always helps you a little bit. Batting average isn't great. Maybe he's a 270 batting average guy, but he does walk. He does hit for power. He can steal some bases. And he's going to give you some versatility potentially from his eligibility standpoint for his position in his first few years, because I do think he will see some starts in the outfield.
Well, all right. And, that those 8 to 10 stolen bases speaks to his athleticism and that Goldschmidt comp. So I do like that one a lot. He is extremely athletic, as you mentioned, versatile enough to play all three outfield spots, although he's traditionally more a first baseman and probably where he'll play his career. My expectations might have been a little lofty, but if I temper them down from 280 to 270, from 30 to 25, from 100 to 90, does that still seem lofty for him, or do you think that's year in and year out what he will likely be putting up if it all breaks right?
I think absolutely. That's exactly what I would probably comp him for. If I was being conservative, would be 260, 270 in the batting average range. But in a lot of batting average, we know a lot of that is luck based, just where balls drop in a given year. And then the power, absolutely, and the rest of the numbers for sure. I'm totally with you there.
Right, and now is the time. You get him now. You wait it out a year or two, and then for the next 10 years, you got your first baseman. You don't even have to think about it. You got a solid first baseman. AJ Reed, Cody Bellinger. You can only have one.
We had this debate on the Dodgers podcast as well, and on the Houston podcast. I am Bellinger all the way. I think that his floor is much higher than what Reed's is right now. There were some serious questions with Reed, and I think I always look back at when I have all things being equal, the thing that I go back on is walk rates, which they're both pretty high. I think Bellinger's actually is a little higher, though I'm speaking off the cuff, so I could be wrong about that. And then I look at organizations, and the Astros do a good job of developing players, but I think that their players sort of end up being pretty good from what their ceilings are in terms of talent, where the Dodgers get the absolute utmost out of their players all the time, whether it's pitchers, whether it's hitters, whether it's bullpen pieces. They typically are able to get the most out of their players. Their players reach their ceilings.
Yes, they do. I would agree with that. And I would agree with Bellinger as well. That would be my take. Reed's one of these, shooting stars, wasn't really highly regarded as a prospect, kind of broke out and everybody wanted him. He's regressed a little, he's up and down. And Bellinger is a lot steadier and is riding a much more natural plane to his fame. We're going a little long with the prospects, which I don't think is ever bad. But we do have one more to get into, and I think it's kind of cheating. I think it's kind of cheap. I don't really think he's a prospect, although he's still considered one and eligible to be considered one. I'm talking about Andrew Benintendi. Again, if you know Ralph at all, you're going to know he's going to try to get as many Red Sox references onto any of these shows as possible. I will try to abuse him for those and get as many Yankee points in as I can. But, Benintendi, real quick, Cody Bellinger will be 22 in July. Let me give you the numbers on him, 6'4", 210. And Lewis Brinson will be 23 in May. Another big guy, 6'3", 195. So anyway, I just want to make sure everybody knew that. Benintendi, he'll be 23 in July, a little bit smaller, 5'10", 170. Guys have proven that size does not necessarily define power, or at least power numbers in baseball. So I'm not thinking anything with the stature as being a limitation on him reaching those, power projections. But my take on Benintendi is he's really good, but he's a little less than what the projections for Brinson that we were talking about are. That Brinson ceiling, Benintendi's just shy of that. However, 10 times over, much more safer, and might not reach those power peak numbers, but certainly, 2020 is within reach. So,
absolutely.
Red Sox.
Yeah, and if anybody knows me, anyone follows my writing, I have been Andrew Benintendi's number one fan probably since right after he was drafted. I watched him over here in Lowell when he first made his first stop in his professional career. This is a guy that won the 2015 Golden Spikes, which is essentially college baseball's answer to the Heisman. Sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, he was well known in Ohio, playing high school ball there, but he was smaller. Really had a huge breakout, his last year at Arkansas, which is where he went to college. Ended up going to the Red Sox 7th overall. And I've been on record saying that I thought this guy a year ago was the best player in the 2015 draft. That is a great draft class. Maybe it will be Bregman. Maybe it will be him. I've always said that I thought he was going to be better than Dansby Swanson. And I think that will hold true. Now, I've heard everything across the board. I've made comps to Nick Markakis, and not recent Nick Markakis. I want you to go back. I want you to go into Fangraphs, and I want you to look at Nick Markakis' numbers. Yeah, exactly. His first 5 years in the league. This is a guy that hit for.
Yeah, not to cut you off. I'm sorry, but if anybody's laughing at the Nick Markakis reference, Nick Markakis is actually still a good baseball player, and he's half of what he was. So anyway, proceed.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, 300 on 300, batting average. He can do that. This is something that Benintendi can do this year. 400 on base percentage. This guy has had elite walk rates his entire baseball career. He's got a great eye. 20 homers. I think he can have 20 homers. I think he can have more. The funny thing is with Benintendi is I feel that Benintendi's power is knocked so much because of what he looks like. And I subscribe to the Billy Bean mentality that you don't need to look like a ball player. There's so many prospects that are hyped up because, they fill out a uniform well. They look like a linebacker. I will rank Benintendi higher than Moncada, and that was the case even prior to him being traded off of my Red Sox. I always have been the Benintendi guy. You can go back and check the tape. I put out my Red Sox top 15 or whatever system ranking back in November, and I had Benintendi ahead of Moncada. So this is what I've always felt. I think this guy is elite. I think he's elite in several different categories. He's, if you're in on-base percentage leagues, this guy is a 6-category contributor. He's not going to hurt you in any one area. He's actually going to help you in every single one. I think that his swing, if you watch, his swing is a thing of beauty. I mean, other than guys like Ted Williams and Ken Griffey Jr., there are very few swings that you can match up with Benintendi. I know I'm going way off the deep end with the hyperbole, but like I said, I love Benintendi. He's like my favorite baseball player of all time. I basically stalk the guy, but go watch some video. Just go watch some video and watch how clean, balanced through the zone, everything this guy does. His swing is picture perfect, picturesque, great lefty swing. The Red Sox, obviously, with Williams, Ortiz, and some others have, a long history of great left-handed hitters, and I think Benintendi's the next one.
Ralph, he doesn't even have a full season under his belt. As a pro, how can he be your favorite player of all time? It's fine. I get it. Well,
not all time. That's Tony Gwynn.
You just literally said he's my favorite baseball player of all time. I get
Prospect.
it. I get it.
It's the game right now.
Okay. Is he the Jose Altuve of outfielders?
Yeah, I guess if you're saying, a guy that outproduces his size, absolutely.
No.
I think the power is easy, man. I think the power is much easier than it's going to be from Altuve, and I think that his power floor is higher than what Altuve's was.
I didn't mean it in that regard. Okay. I wasn't doing a size comparison. I was doing, every category contributor comparison, sure. And above average numbers in every category. I was trying to give you, a bone with that one. No,
I agree. I'll agree with it. I think he's going to be the Red Sox.
I'd like to be the Jose Altuve of anything.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad comp at all. I mean, I'm throwing, but come on, man, I'm throwing around Ken Griffey Jr. and Ted Williams with this guy, and you're throwing Altuve. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I love Benintendi. I think this guy is a two-hole hitter. for the next 10 years of the Red Sox, as long as he sticks. And I will mention, I know it was a really, really, really small sample size because they got swept out of the playoffs, but he seemed to be the only guy that showed up in the playoffs this year. And, I take something away from that because no moment is too big for this kid. He's exceeded expectations at every level he's been in. I think this is the rookie to have on your roster in 2017.
All right. Before we get into calling him the Derek Jeter of Boston, that's
Xander Bogaerts.
Let's wrap this up. Well, no, you said clutch in the playoffs, so that's what is making me think Jeter. Anyway, that's going to do it. Those are our 3 prospects this week. We went a little longer than most episodes, but again, hope you found it beneficial. Please subscribe to the channel, leave your comments. Hit us up on Twitter or leave in the comments or on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to follow Nickel Press TV. We're everywhere, just search. Let us know what players specifically you want us to touch on, and we'll give you our honest answers. We're not going to give you the consents. We're not going to give you what you're going to find everywhere else, the cookie cutter answers. We're not afraid to be wrong, but we're going to tell you what we see and what we believe, and hopefully that's why you'll find this show beneficial and keep coming back. So this is the Baseball Show. We'll see you next week with a couple more episodes. Thanks.